Here to be the me.
We're doing it live. Ready? Great. Wonderful.
Hello.
Zach's here.
Let's have 1, 2
Fantastic.
drinks.
Zach has
Start the
had
show.
3 beers and he is ready to go.
Everything's
Um,
great.
So this is the Average Joe Movie Show at nOg for the Pubcast, nOg podcast, right?
Pods at the Nog.
Pods at the Nog.
Odds. Dude,
What?
you gotta know the name before you say
I
it.
did know the name. He said it and then I repeated it.
It's not like I put the average show movie show or anything.
Pods at the Nog. We are at the Nog, and we are doing pods.
Yeah.
Do you have any of that?
I'm just gonna let you host. It's just what it is.
All right, Ruff. How's it going, man? What are you drinking right now?
Oh, I'm drinking an orange soda. I love orange soda.
No. It's not just an orange soda. Tell them about
It's a
this orange
Sprecher
soda. This thing is
soda.
fucking incredible. Tell them about it.
How do you pronounce it?
Sprecher.
Espresso Orange Dream.
And it tastes exactly like an orange cream pop, like the popsicles from when you were a kid. But yeah, it seems like a creamsicle,
Yeah,
an
boy.
orange creamsicle, but it's it's carbonated, which makes it better.
Who loves orange soda?
And he gets it in a glass with ice because he fucking
Is it
runs
true?
this place.
No, it's because the fridge doesn't work. Kel loves orange soda.
You think the fridge doesn't work?
Don't try to class the place up.
Jesus Christ. Always snowing at the Nog, huh?
Amen.
Well, this is actually our second time here at nOg. We one time were doing a show for Night of the Living Dead. That was, god damn, that was 3 years ago.
This is the first time I watched that movie.
I remember that night, but I didn't get to come.
Damn.
I wasn't trying to be
Neither did
dirty,
I.
but
But
Were-
that was
are we
before,
interviewing you?
yes.
That
Not
was
anymore.
before it officially became Pods at the Nog.
Oh
Yeah. This was. Wasn't it your projector that was supplied?
It was
Oh,
Zach's.
Oh, okay.
I just barely bought mine so we can roast my movies at the festival.
Oh, nice.
You know, it's like Mystery Science Theater. It's like horrible short films.
So, how many podcasts have you hosted here so far?
6 or 7,
Okay.
maybe 8. We started
We said
in
8 earlier.
oh yeah, something like that. I did like back to back a couple times, so I lost count. But we started off in December.
Okay.
We talked about it in September, but I wanted to launch it on my birthday. So.
What were the other podcasts?
We had Tidbits, Leslie Joe, and Etchy. We had Ross McCoy here from Orlando with Talks with Ross.
Yep. Shout out Ross McCoy.
Ross and Court.
What are some of the biggest challenges you faced while hosting a podcast?
Thanks for asking, Shane. No, I'm just kidding.
We've had some crazy people here a couple times. So you'll see them in the past episodes. Of course, it's Daytona, so it gets pretty wild sometimes.
Is that it gets kind of crazy sometimes? You host a podcast?
I wish we had a show called Counting Crazies, but we need to get a crazy count.
He's
We
like,
have serial
I
killers.
wish anybody would show up and cause a problem, cheer, sit, watch, anything. That's just the nature of the Nog, though, right? You know?
This is kind of the family place to be, man.
Yeah.
We're all like kind of slightly messed up people.
Yeah, this is the Island of Misfit Toys over here.
I love
Yep.
it.
Everyone comes to us from Jacksonville to Melbourne to Orlando when the comics, so because they can get away with stuff that they can't say in their own cities.
Yeah.
Way to romanticize it. Like it's so much worse than toys. Like that makes it sound so much
Oh,
better
fine,
than what
Robbie.
it really is.
It's the place where the alcoholics come, and if you stay too late, you hang out with the outlaws. That's all it is.
Serial killer.
Yeah, you meet a serial killer, she goes to jail, you start a relationship, next thing you know,
Yeah,
you're making conjugal
Chopped up
visits.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Smoking crack.
Best case scenario, just give up on your hopes and dreams. Like just nothing. There's nothing good. Just become a nihilist, and
Yeah,
that's
I
your
mean-
best bet.
I mean, honestly,
It's
you're
gotta be
just
exhausting.
describing- But now you're just describing people who stay at bars all day. So that's
You can never be disappointed if you have zero expectations to begin with.
that's a great point.
I live my life like the Tommy Boy tagline. It's like, what's that? It's a tagline that I like. I can't remember because my brain's all fried. Lower your standards or something like that. I'll have to look it up actually, but you guys keep going, and
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, so a lot of people might not know this who watch, because I know when you're doing your podcast, I don't know how often you talk about your role in The Last Laugh. I handed over The Last Laugh to Kevin Tibbert and Andre Dolan, the guys who run the show here.
It's not about you.
Shut up. I'm literally going away from me. I said I gave it to them. It's theirs now. And so as you filled in for Minas as the DJ, and now you're the regular DJ for the show. Unless it's a night you can't make it for some reason, you're the dude, and he's so thoughtful. He walks around to every comic before the show or during and asks them, what song do you want to walk up to? That doesn't happen. Like, you go to a show, they just play some music before you go on stage. If there's music at all. Like, he does it all of his own volition, and he takes pictures in between the songs. So while he's DJing, he takes pictures of people too, and then he hooks them up with them and everything. And he does it for tips. It's the coolest fucking thing, dude.
Yep, just like Shane and I really get paid.
So do you face any audio challenges when it comes to dealing with all those different artists?
Well, I love it because it's like an eclectic mix. Like 1 minute I'll play like Kevin's song, which is like Kefka or something. And then I'll play mine, which is like totally random from like DMX or something, or Wu-Tang, or just random songs. It's like we start off with the DX intro and everything. Oh, the quote is if at first you don't succeed, lower your standards. And that's the quote that I live by to this day.
My Tommy Boy quote is people go to college for 7 years. Yeah, they're called doctors. It's still my favorite. So I don't know. That's just my
You know how fast you were going? 7 over 7 miles an hour.
Black Sheep, by the way.
Yes, same movie.
Not same.
No.
It's the same.
Can you fuck off? Boo!
Boo!
I'm with you.
Same movie.
Jack. Me Hoff.
But yeah, that's
Sorry,
for the pictures too. I really get paid for that. Like, it just unlocks doors for everybody. Like, because you put it there, they put their headshots on flyers, and like Zach has mentioned me on like Facebook so many times about the photos, and I screenshot every single one of them, and I put it on my press kit and stuff like that. And it's just for him to do that like multiple times just means the world to me. And as long as it gets them to the doors, because I know that I can't get into those doors because I'm a dirty comic. And I'm not supposed to get all these gigs.
But you're not as dirty as some other comics.
No, he's incredibly dirty. Yeah, he's
disgusting.
I sound innocent now.
But I mean, if you're censoring yourself and you're not saying certain words, then
No.
Because you can't say fuck. Zach is our podcast fact checker.
You can't say the F word, but I say felch. So it's just like, you know.
Yeah, he doesn't say fuck, but then he says felch, and someone goes, "What's that?" And then he describes it. So he's like, do you know what felching is?
Why don't you tell
so
us?
Will you please enlighten our friend Shane here as
Yeah,
what felching is?
felching.
I don't know what it is either.
Like, you guys don't? Oh, you guys need to explore the dark holes of Pornhub.
or just his set.
Or my set.
I have explored the dark holes of Pornhub, and I haven't seen.
That was the last time you talked to me in that time.
How dare you assume that I haven't?
I will enlighten you with felching. It's where you bust in their butts, you have them release it, you slurp it out, and you swallow it. Yeah.
So just in case you missed that, you suck your own nut out of a butt.
Yeah. So I call this sex position hostess ding dong, and you bust on their butts. It involves felching. You bust on their butts. You lather their butt cheeks up with chocolate syrup. You say, "Hey, where's the cream filling?" And they release it, and you swallow it, and you say, "That's the stuff, hostess."
And then sometimes he brings a pack of ding dongs.
I do.
And then he goes, "Hostess, that's the stuff." And then he throws hostess cakes at people.
Oh my god!
It's like a 4D experience. 4D's nuts. You know.
That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome.
But it's on this album, so there's so much more sex positions on this album that you can all do at home. No matter what you're into, you can try it at home. Horses. Everywhere.
Damn it, Matt! I told you I didn't want to do this podcast. Fuck! I told you.
I guess I haven't to explore the black holes. I
Am I
said
on the
corrected
Wi-Fi?
here.
I think I'm on the Wi-Fi here. Can I Google that on the Wi-Fi?
Absolutely, go for
Can I
it.
just say what a terrifying? My nightmare would be Sareth being like, "Well, you're all tied up."
You know what Shane's doing now reminds me of the time I worked at AT&T and my buddy he was like, I don't know what bukkake is. And so he Googles it, forgets to turn that whole thing off, shows it to a customer how to use the whole, his phone because it was brand new, and pops first thing on the screen was the bukkake.
My nightmare is just Sareth being like, "You ever heard of Japanese rope play?" And I'm like falling asleep, like what? And then I wake up, I'm like, ah! I'm like, yeah.
It's like the movie The Audition all over again.
Hey, what?
Am I looking at it right now?
Now you are.
That is not semen.
It is too.
Kind of doesn't matter.
I can see it from here.
This is gay porn. This is just gay porn.
Yeah, nobody
that is-
nobody said it had to be a woman's ass.
Yeah, you can do it on a horse.
You can say, please
God
don't.
damn it.
Let's clarify. No one do it on horses.
Turtles even. Turtles.
Yeah,
Can we go to Cat Williams to Stuck in a Tree again? I'm
stuck in a tree.
Cat Williams probably does it to all his hookers.
Yes.
They're called sex workers. Has respect.
Oh, sorry, night walkers.
You come in the sex worker's ass and stuff to come out. That is called respect.
This is a great podcast. So I think we'll end it there. So you and Clive Barker, can you tell me about that relationship?
Oh, sure. Now
Tell
you
me.
That's what I learned about Belgium.
and bodily fluids. If you read his book, you'll learn more about bodily fluids. I'm like, when people try to get people into shows, they're called barkers. So it's that too, good stuff. There's all kinds of things that ties into barker and stand up.
Well, he's incapacitated with laughter. So we actually met Clive Barker at the most recent Spooky Empire. Well, not most recent, the Spooky Empire 2019,
Yeah.
and he wasn't necessarily doing so well. He was in a wheelchair. I didn't even know it was him because we were coming from the Orange County Convention Center, and I was holding the door open for somebody in a wheelchair. I was just like, "Oh yeah, somebody." He's like, "Thank you," and it shouldn't take until he was almost in the elevator, like 100 feet in front of me, that was Clive Barker. I was like, "I love your stuff," and that's my story, and that's the end. But with you had a very long-standing relationship with Clive Barker, and so how did you get that job, and how was Clive Barker?
Well, the crazy thing was, I was a huge fan growing up, like a kid. Like my first movie experience was Hellbound Hellraiser 2 with Julia, and her skinless thing.
Sorry, did you say your first movie was Hellraiser 2?
Most of my
Not first horror movie,
Just your first movie.
that pops out of my head. Like
So-
no Batman Returns, no Batman Untold.
Yeah.
Like All Dogs Go to Heaven, just
Well,
straight to Hellraiser
straight
2.
to Hellraiser.
Fucking Bambi.
No
No,
Bambi,
no
no.
Bambi. No.
People are like, I'm traumatized from watching that deer get shot. He's like,
So,
I saw someone's skin get ripped off.
so my daughter's 5. And she's 6 now, but she was 5 when she watched Hellraiser. And she called the skinless man. She called him the ketchup man. And I was like, yeah, that's what it is. I was like, that's ketchup. That is not a man without skin. That's a guy with ketchup on his skin.
But why does he like ketchup so much? I hope she never watches the.
For the record, I want to do another Hellraiser pin. I've done one, and I want to do a Frank pin from Hellraiser, and now I'm going to call it the ketchup pin.
That'd be
Yeah.
So,
No, I actually have a really cool pin from that movie. It's a pin on top of a wine stopper. One of those heavy duty, pointed wine stoppers, metallic. But on top of it, it's Julia skinless from the movie holding the wine glass.
Oh.
Yeah, it's one of the coolest things I own. I want to be buried with it. I think like it's one of my most prized possessions.
Also, before DCF shows up at Shane's house, all a joke. The kids never saw
Yeah, this
Hellraiser
didn't
2.
really happen. She didn't
She
watch
caught
it.
him the ketchup, man.
Yeah, it was ketchup.
Yeah, that. You did great.
Indeed. And then I went and saw Candyman, the original, because it came from his book, The Forbidden. And that scared me for like 6 years straight, from like 9 to 15.
Still scared me.
Oh my god, I
Still
watched that
scared
when I was like 6.
It's the first movie that ever scared me.
My dad was like,
That
"You're not gonna
Jurassic
be ready
Park.
for this." And I was like, "Yeah, I am."
Yeah.
And I watched that shit, and
There were only 3 movies that scared me, and one of them was Candyman.
Yeah.
So back in the day, anyway. So
Yeah.
that and the Velociraptors from Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty scary, too.
They're fucking scary.
Yeah, they can. Yeah,
The original, not the ones that are CGI'd right now.
yeah.
Let it go.
It was the thing with the fucking gills that scared the shit out of me, where he spat at the dude.
No.
That was the most horror.
I was like, "Holy shit!" I was like, "That guy got ruined."
So I got a question for Surratt. Surratt, you hang out with all our friends here at nOg who do some extracurricular activities that you do not partake in.
Yes, that's true.
Do you ever feel? I mean, everybody loves you, so I assume you don't feel afraid ever.
Never.
Okay. Because Kevin would probably rip someone's skin off and make them a ketchup man if someone ever did anything to you.
I almost knocked someone out for you, Surratt.
You sure did.
That's true. That's
And-
true.
But do you ever get like I don't know, Coke FOMO? do you ever get like oh, I wish I was all or like does it ever make you feel or does it ever make you feel any type of way? Because I don't really do anything. I'll drink a little bit, but I mean I don't really. So I was wondering if you ever have like a thing where you're like, oh, I wish I was all fucked up out back.
Not at all, because I watched the reasons, because I watched Requiem for a Dream, and I'm like, I'm never touching anything that'll make me do all those.
That's actually what happens after you leave is butt to butt.
Yes, to ass.
Butt type of stuff. Ass to ass. Yeah.
But, I'm sorry, we bombarded you with at least 3 questions.
For the record, I've done cocaine and I've not done ass to ass.
Yeah.
That's the
There
next
there's a happy
Yeah.
medium. You don't just go straight from I'm going to try cocaine for the first time to
Ass to ass.
Definitely more of a crack thing.
Kevin Beaumont asked, "Where's the Revenge of the Nerd laugh coming from?" And it's probably Kevin's laugh.
That would be
You're
great.
welcome. Goddamn right it is. That's what we're saying.
That's how powerful his laugh is. It's coming from literally like 15 feet away from these mics.
From one Kevin to the other Kevin. But yeah, I
One
thought
Kevin to the others.
the whole Clive thing would like be like gone away after the whole Candyman experience. But then I like 2008, someone messages me on MySpace and they go, Clive Barker is releasing a new book called Mr. Be Gone. It's about a demon that possesses a book while you're reading it. And so I was like, all right, you got my attention. And so I read it in Colorado Springs before a doctor's appointment. I read the first 27 pages and I couldn't get enough. And I went back home and I told my mom, look, I'm a broke college kid. I need this book. I need to finish it. And so I kept on reading it. There's this part in this book where it says, see that page moving on the other side? That's me making it move. And it's that demon. And I looked over, nothing was causing it to move. And it was just moving up and down like that. I was like, oh crap. He scared me with Hellraiser 2, Candyman. I gotta meet this guy. I need him to be my teacher. I need him to teach me how to scare people. And so I first emailed TNA Wrestling to see if I can get a broadcast internship. They didn't get back to me. And I emailed Clive's website, and they're based out of England. And the folks in England, Phil and Sarah Stokes, shout out to them. They forwarded my email to Los Angeles or Beverly Hills area. They reached out to me and they said, give me your resume, get out some dates, see what we can do. They picked Friday the 13th at 4:30 p.m. Like my cousin, my parents, and myself, we drove all the way from Colorado to New Mexico because we couldn't afford plane tickets. And we drove all the way out there, and I dropped them off at the Beverly Hills Park or Hotel Park, and I drove back up, and I go to the first house, which is just his studio that you see in the Midnight Meat Train special feature.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought I was going to go to that one, but they relocated to this place called the Gallery House, which is also in the Midnight Meat Train, same featurette. When he both had those. And he walks up the stairs because they're all connected. It's a big old compound. And he walks up the stairs. He sits down in front of me and he interviews me. And I'm like, "Hey, Mr. Barker." He goes, "Please call me Clive," like in his English, rough voice. And he goes, "So, kid, why do you want to do this?" I'm like, "Because I want to be just like you." And he goes, "What do your parents think about this?" I'm like, "Because my dad's 100% behind me, but my mom is sad because I'm like the baby of the family." And the third was, "What do you did you come out here for business or pleasure?" And I didn't know his sense of humor, so I said, "Business because I'm here with you, pleasure because I just went to Disneyland and Universal Studios."
What's your pleasure, sir?
Yeah, that's what he was going for, and I'm like, and I totally missed that, and so he goes, "All right, kid, you got the job. You just got to write me every single week until I get here." And I'm like, "Sweet." So I waited a whole year because there was another intern that was there, and then I just started back up. But he goes, "Come visit me before then." And I went to go visit him during spring break, and he gives me like 13 pieces of art, like canvas, like the Books of Blood covers, and Spiegel portfolio and autographs, everything. Wow. And he goes, "Welcome to the club." And then he tweets about me the following month. He goes, "Stress is a gentleman and much love to my household. I hold him in the higher cigar." Out of the blue. And I'm like, this is like Stephen King co-signing you with I've Seen the Future of Horror. His name is Clive Barker. And Quentin Tarantino co-signing him, saying to call the Beatles a garage band is like calling Clive Barker a horror writer or something like that. And I'm like, this is what those guys did to him and now to me. And now I got to pass the torch to somebody else. But yeah, that's how it all happened. And the craziest summer. And then I'll let you guys intervene if you guys want to.
So, gosh, I don't even know where to start. Yeah, go for it.
For the record, like, it's speechless. I didn't even know some of those details, For the record, Clive Barker is the #1 human being that I idolize on the face of the earth that's alive today.
This is where Drew pulls out his gun.
I love Clive Barker. I've read a couple things of his, probably at least 5 times. I've read actually, for the record, I've never read Mr. Be Gone.
You gotta read.
I really want to read that one. But all of his classic stuff, I've read all of it, and I just idolize him. All of his movies, all of his books. I own a couple original pieces of artwork from him, a couple original sketches, and I've met him a couple times. And he's like one of the greatest human beings ever. He's a really, really nice guy, really down to earth and everything. And just like when I found out that you interned with him, and I lost my to me, you're like a celebrity. I'm like, damn. Sareth is like a fucking celebrity to me now. Just because you have that connection with Clive Barker, somebody I look up to so much. It's awesome.
Thank you. I don't try to be. I don't mention it often. Even my Wu-Tang stories, like Kevin when he hosts the mic, he just plays it out loud. I'm like trying to be low key famous. I don't really want to be famous at all.
You said you have to write them, right?
Just to be clear, you're very low key.
Thank you. I'm a local celebrity that no one knows.
Zach is still drunk and also is low-key famous as well. I don't care how many TikToks you make.
So what exactly did you write him about? What do you write someone like Clive Barker? What do you say? Hey, my day's going good. My week's all right. What did you say?
He just wanted to know everything about my life, what I was going through. Yeah, I just started writing and I would save it in a Microsoft Word form, go back to it and send it off a certain day of the week. And
this is 2008.
Yep, 2008 to 2000.
Do you have them archived? I mean, I'm not saying I want to. I do want to read them, but I don't want you to not tell me that I can't read them.
Oh, they're gone. They're long gone. They were in my old emails that I don't want to bring up because it's one of those wacky ones with a number at the end. I don't know.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Sniper God 69.
Yeah, pretty much one of those ones.
I'm Sareth in a box. Come find me, 69.
You opened the box. I wrote to you.
You just out of curiosity, you still correspond with him every once in a while, right?
Rarely now. It's because he's getting old. I don't want to bother him. He's has his fingers in so many projects. I'm just
he just got the rights back to his films, didn't he? One of his films, and So
The original Hellraiser, the first 1 and 2. Or...
He has the U.S. rights to it.
Yeah.
That's about that I know of.
He had surrendered the rights for a lot of years.
and he was just handcuffed to that movie completely. After Hellraiser came out, he was, there was an interview that was on the Arrow edition, and he was like, "I'm so fucking sick of talking about this movie, man. I don't give a shit." Like
don't make badass movies.
I understand, like you're kind of like
I get
the
it,
burden of your own creation,
Yeah.
but it's just we want to know, man. I don't know you. I'm sorry that you've been asked this 100 times.
Well,
But when we met him, I mean, he was super cool. So
Right.
it didn't even matter. Like I didn't think that he had any sort of,
there was no communication barrier. He was sitting there sketching when I walked up.
Yeah.
One of the times I walked up, he's sitting there just sketching. I was like, holy shit. Like, I'm watching, like, one of the people that inspired me to start drawing and do art. Like, I'm just watching him draw before my very eyes. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, he was super personable too.
Yeah.
Very, very personable. I was talking to him about the Candyman set from Arrow because that's what I wanted signed from him. I had him sign the Candyman Arrow set along with Tony Todd. So that was really cool. So who plays Candyman if you don't know? But yeah, so you say, when was the last time you actually talked to Clive?
Well, we don't talk on the phone. We usually text each other. I know that sounds like a brag, and stuff, but
Can I have his phone number?
no.
Hey, man!
Just tell him, please, all the Daytona fans want the 5th book of Apparat.
Right?
Or the 4th book of Apparat and the 5th, both. So,
He says it's in the works, isn't he? Like, right? He's just like, soon.
well, that's one of the things I asked him. I was like, when's the 4th book coming out? When I met him at Days of the Dead in Georgia. I drove to Atlanta, Georgia to meet him.
Just to find out he was going to do Orlando.
I drove all the way there and back in one day. It was like almost 13 hours of driving just so I could meet Clive Barker. And one day I had to work the next day. And he signed my first edition Apparat novel, and I bought an original piece of artwork, a sketch. I paid $500 for it. And he signed my Nightbreed poster, which we haven't talked about yet, which is my favorite film. I became a Clive Barker fan when I was like probably 5 or 6 years old. I went to a garage sale. My parents, of course, right across the street from where we were living, and they happened to have Nightbreed on VHS, and I bought it for 50 cents at the garage sale, and it just changed everything for me. I love that movie. It was a big part of what sparked my interest in horror, and it's one of the earliest films I remember like really attaching myself to. It scared me at the time. I was young, it scared the shit out of me, but I've always liked him ever since. A lot of people start with Hellraiser, because that's his most beloved and famous work. But I like Nightbreed the most. That's my absolute favorite. That's why I made those pins.
Indeed. Kevin said, "Good night, you sexy mother effers." So shout out to Kevin and all the other folks that jumped in the last one and all that stuff. But yeah, Clive was so generous. We'd have heart conversations all the time. He would call me Harvey, young Harvey, the summer of 2009 because of The Thief of Always. I said, "Hey, I read this book. I am so much like Harvey." He goes, "I'll call you young Harvey from now on." So I was
love that book. I read it again recently. I've read it 3 times. I read it in high school for the first time. I love that book.
It's a beautiful book.
It could also be your rapper name, Young Harvey.
For anyone who doesn't know, it's I liken it to Coraline, something like that. Like a Neil Gaiman, it's the number 1 book that he's ever made that I'm shocked has not gotten a film adaptation for children. A dark animated, probably just a film. I don't think a series or anything. It amazes me that something so inventive and creative has not been adapted.
Indeed. Speaking of midnight, because the bell rang, Clive was Apparat Absolute Midnight. I was a production assistant on that book trailer, so it's on YouTube.
Wow.
So
I looked it up after you told me that. It was pretty cool because I'm this is something that I've read each book probably 3 times a piece, and I listened to the audio like literally last night. I couldn't sleep. I put in my headphones, or the night before last night. I put in my headphones, and I have all the audiobooks. More often than not, I listen to them when I'm going to sleep. It's one of the most inventive fantasy series ever. And like that's comparing it to the Lord of the Rings and Alice in Wonderland and Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Whatever you want, Harry Potter. Yeah, I love it so much, but we've never seen any sort of adaptation when it comes to film. So that was the closest thing I've ever got as a nerd fan of the series. I got to watch that trailer, and I got to see Christopher Carrion, like the lead antagonist, if you want to call him that. He's really not the antagonist, but it was really interesting. It was cool. I was stoked when you introduced me to that little trailer.
Yeah, it didn't take up much from at all. It was all like he had like studio A, B, and C, and it was like the second level was B, and we went downstairs just to the second level. It's also it's the theater in the studio in the Midnight Meat Train featurette where he walks down the stairs and there's paintings on the walls. He was going down to the studio, and we had a small space, green room. It was like a green screen, didn't take much room. And I remember that Christopher Carrion, because I was supposed to mess up his teeth a little bit with food coloring, and I totally messed up and got it all over like his mouth a little bit. But they were able to fix this. I felt so bad that day, but it was dope. But yeah, and then they worked with designing all the islands, and each island represents an hour of the day and all that stuff. And there was like this huge painting of all of it. There's a 3-piece a triptych, I think.
I've seen it. Yeah, it's awesome.
And it's one of my Facebook pictures, and someone takes a picture from the top of the stairs.
Oh wow!
And I'm standing right next to the picture, the paintings.
Oh, sweet!
And it's insane.
Nice.
They had one of Clive's paintings in my hands, and everything like that. It was dope, but
that's what you don't realize, the scale of his paintings.
Yeah.
So everybody's he hasn't brought out it was 2011, I think, when the third book came out, Absolute Midnight, which you mentioned. So we're waiting for the fourth book, but it's not just as simple as sitting down and writing a novel, having it all in your imagination and putting the words to paper. He also does artwork, chapter headings like you would see in a lot of things, but I mean, some of these artworks are 40 feet tall, like 20 to 40 feet tall, it's, I think he stated, I read something that it started with dreams, and he started painting what he would see in his dreams, and then he based the writing on the artwork, or on the paintings, which is the reverse of what you think it would be. But because all those paintings are going to accompany this novel, this fourth book that we've been waiting for over a decade now, no wonder he hasn't released it yet.
One thing that's iconic to me about the Candyman movies is the artwork in the movies. And that's one thing that, when I first saw it as a kid, that kind of stuck with me. How much of a hand did the collector had in the art that contributed to the movie?
I know that there was a lot of his paintings in the Midnight Meat Train with Brooke Shields and Bradley Cooper and stuff. Those were all of his paintings in that gallery. I know because I went through all of them and helped organize them and stuff.
My mom recommended that movie, actually. I've actually... she saw it. I know that you guys are just...
The story originated in the Books of Blood.
Yep.
In one of the first volumes, I think. It's a really weird story, man. It's a serial killer. Somebody gets tracked by a serial killer in the subway tunnels, but in the end, you think it's just like a slasher story. In the end, they end up in a place in the subway tunnels that is all but forgotten, and it's like an underground monster cult sort of. They're actually there's a bunch of monsters that are feeding upon the human beings.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I gotta watch.
That's a Clive Barker story for you. It's essentially along those lines.
And you were talking about his sketches earlier, and I remember I was being a concert journalist out in LA, and I put Sweat Fest on hold because it started off as a film festival in his place, and we were talking about John Carpenter earlier, and I went and saw Big Trouble in Little China at the Egyptian, and he had a Q&A with Rain, and he autographed my Laserdisc. I started a festival at home, at his studio, and I'm showing my short films, and they're like, what do we call this? We'll call it Sweat Fest. I'm like, cool. And I made a big deal on social media. The VP got mad. And so it's all right, we only have to have our own core people here. Nobody else. Nobody else can show here. No press, nothing. I'm like, all right, fine. So we showed it in his screening room. And then I put that fest on hold, and I picked it back up like 4 years later. It's a crazy story about that too. And a metal musician named Jeremiah named it Stress Fest again, so it resurrected. But in that 4 year period, I was a concert journalist, like getting paid to go to concerts, like all over Sunset Strip and like surrounding areas. And Clive goes, "Hey, what are you using to write your articles on?" And I'm like, "I just got a pen and note cards." He goes, "Dude, you went to school for journalism. Use a journal. Here's a journal off my desk." He gives me this journal off his desk, and I finish it up, put ticket stubs in there, set lists, everything, and like shorthand scribbled chicken scratch handwriting, because I was in the dark. I didn't have I had little lighting. I went with the music and just wrote. And then I finished it. I gave it back to him like, "Hey, this is your present. I want you to have this back." And he goes, "I can't have this. Let me do what I do." And so he draws this phoenix, but it looks like a pecker with wings, and he autographs it, and then he hands it right back. And then and the funny thing is, like, there in the very back page, like the cardboard area, there was a Tenacious D one, and it's like Rise of the Phoenix tour from the Will Turn, and it's a pecker in the shape of a phoenix. So it went like perfect, and he didn't even see the end of that, and so it was
That's
great.
crazy.
And then like later on, he would give me when I got back home from the two when RZA left the studio, Clive gave me this painting of his, like this big old an unknown Abrat character, because he goes the only way that he appears if they're ready to come forward and I can write about him. And he goes, I told him I can't accept that painting. And he goes, "Fine, you can have that one." And I'm like, "I'm not taking that one either." He goes, "Do a coin flip with a quarter." And the funny thing is, I had a quarter in my pocket. My buddy Travis gave it to me when I got interviewed. It was like my lucky quarter, uncirculated Colorado coin. Put it in my pocket. Because my parents came from Cambodia with just a quarter in their pocket too. So that's why I named my company Quarter and Dream Pickers, my website, cutiepie.com for all that stuff. So there's like a deeper meaning to it.
Yeah.
And then I gave him the quarter. And he just that painting, it kind of looks like me, but like a fish, and it's like facing somewhere. And he writes on the back of it that I can't remember, but it's going to be in the movie that's premiering at the Fringe Festival, and it just predicts my future. Like there's pictures of me and the Wu-Tang Clan in there. There's the Corey Taylor experience in there. Joe Coy coastline. It's just nuts. This whole like 5-minute flick is just freaking bizarre. But he gave me that painting, and he goes, "Hang this up in your office when you get back." And I became his apprentice like that day, because I think the whole RZA thing helped. The whole Astrid Lawrence having lunch with her helped, with Phil and Sarah in West Hollywood helped. It was just all these things came together. And then he would later on give me like more sketches just right off his desk. I'm like, "You can just have these." I'm like, "Clive, you're freaking nuts. Like, this is nuts." He's like the most giving person. And I told him, like, "Look, I don't want to get paid for this. Like, just pay me knowledge. I'll get like 4 jobs if I have to. But I'm getting knowledge from you and going to concerts every night." And he would give me the keys to his studio and write articles at his studio until like 2 or 3 in the morning. And I would have to go to work wake up at 7:30, go to my day job at 8 o'clock, 8:30 to whatever, to like 5:30, and go to a concert, cover that, come back to the studio, write the article, and do it all over again for 4 years straight. And I wouldn't have changed those days for the world. And when I lived there in the summer of 2009, I drove from Palmdale to Beverly Hills like every single day, 5 days a week, an hour and a half, no traffic, all the way from Antelope Valley to Beverly Hills every single like 5 days a week, just to be a student, and it was worth it.
I bet. Oh man.
Has Sarath convinced you guys to see his movie, The Narcoleptics?
We did discuss narcoleptics.
Did we discuss this already?
Yeah. I made a real bad pun.
Yeah,
Sarath,
Got booed
it
for
was
it.
snooze fest.
when you said that Clive Barker predicted your future, I love the idea of like him just drawing you in the nog. just drunk comedians around, just bombing their dicks off, and he's like, "This will be your future one day. You're gonna meet RZA, you're gonna meet Jizza, you're gonna meet Redman, you're gonna meet," and then he's like, "Also, it gets pretty dark."
This is where the darkness happens.
And that's why I pay homage to Clive with the artwork for Stress Fest back there. It's the Cenobites with the Dr. Shinard from Hellraiser 2.
Oh, cool.
But
yeah. So yeah. Fuck yeah.
Oh yeah, plug Sureth Fest before we go.
oh yeah, Surrex
We're
Fest.
not leaving.
Yeah, not yet, anyways. But we'll plug that in. But
Yeah.
Zach's name's on there. He signed it. All the comics signed it.
That's a really cool poster. I like
I think it tells a story. Like the first one's like Tobey Maguire getting picked up, but it's Chatterer, and so the next one was Benicio and Johnny just picking up Tobey Maguire in their convertible. It's like a mashup of Hellraiser and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Oh, okay.
And then-
Yeah.
The next one was them on
Yeah, I've
acid
noticed all
and-
your like Gonzo insignia and stuff, so you must be a fan of Hunter S. Thompson as well.
We have a similar life without the backcountry stuff.
Yeah.
The drugs.
And that's got a very Ralph Steadman-esque meets Cenobite style. Like I just like we definitely click on style of artwork. Like kind of things we appreciate.
My buddy Charlie McMullen did all the artwork. He goes, "What's in your head? We'll make it happen." And so that is like the 5th installment or something. There was another one where like that scene with Benicio's getting thrown grapefruits by Hunter.
Yeah.
The White Rabbit scene.
Yeah.
There was that scene
When he's in the bathtub. Or,
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's this mirror in that design, and it's Candyman's hook coming through the wall.
Oh, okay.
And so that's like an Easter egg of things to come.
Okay.
Because that's like the next chapter. But the next design is gonna be super sick. But for the next series, we're gonna you hear it first, folks. It's gonna be Bill Murray from like Where the Buffalo Roam and his partner, but in Hellbound Hellraiser 2.
Oh, sweet. So
Yeah,
Bill Murray played Hunter S. Thompson. He was the first one to ever play him, right? In film, long before Johnny Depp.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the next sequence is going to be Johnny Depp and Benicio again, but this time in Nightbreed. And then we're going to go back to Bill Murray in Candyman. We're going to pay homage to Clive like every single way and Hunter on
sweet.
every single way. And
I say Hunter S. Thompson, but it's Raoul Duke.
Raoul Duke.
Yeah. It's his
Yep.
alter ego.
And like we honor Ralph Steadman and stuff, and all those guys, and because like I had an experience with Hell's Angels out in LA once, and because Hunter had an experience with Hell's Angels.
Yeah, he even wrote a book on it.
Yeah, my experience was like they shut down half of the Sunset Strip. They escorted Rob Zombie, Butcher Baby's Huntress, Five Finger Death Punch, into the Whiskey A Go-Go, and Hell's Angels was working security. And here I am, dressed up as Wu-Tang, headed to at this metal press conference, and I interview Jill Huntress, she rest in peace, and Five Finger Death Punch, and upstairs, and Rob Zombie was in the hallway, like in the room across from us. And so like they were making so much noise in the hallway, and Five Finger Death Punch's Chris Kale makes it like he goes, "Hey, shut up, Wu-Tang is talking," and then it was like the best day ever. And like
That's pretty
people
cool.
give them crap, but like they are like the most coolest dudes like to interview. I had so many countless interviews from like Brendan Small from Metalocalypse at the Roxy and Be Real from Cypress Hill at the House of Blues. It was just like he was my first interview, and they just cracked these doors open. When I was in college, I interviewed 303, and it just like spawned out of control. It was bonkers.
Oh shit! Man, you've had such a crazy life, man. That's amazing. You know, I'm jealous. I have a podcast, so I have stories. I have zero stories with celebrities. Besides, I like you. Can you sign this?
Well, Saref is a celebrity, so there we go.
Oh yeah, that's right. So you know what? We'll get the signature later. That's how I am.
Sure. I'll give you guys my record albums, like one apiece, and I'll
There we
autograph one for you.
Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Everybody
But
check it out. What is it?
Oh, my album?
yeah, you're out.
Oh, it's called Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. It's a coming of age, no pun intended, comedy album. There's no curse words, but it's really filthy. Like you learn like.
Yeah, if you Google fletching, it's gonna be.
We
mentally
talked about
scarred
it.
material.
We
Felting, yeah.
talked about it.
Yeah.
It's gonna-
Already. I don't think I need to.
Fletching's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
It's nothing like the blood farts, or is it the same?
And my buddy Matt Herrera from Lastly Audio in Pueblo, I emailed him like my tracks, and he just like mixed and mastered it, and it
Wow.
sounds cherry. And
That's very nice.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. So shout out to Last Leaf Audio and Matt Herrera.
So, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I see that you do a lot of audio. So what are some of the challenges that you face when you're dealing with audio and like when you're dealing with?
No one cares about this.
I care
I
about
do.
this.
I do too.
We're
Sarah.
interviewing
I
the
do
person.
No, I mean literally no one. There's zero
Yeah, there's no
people.
one watching this.
Well,
but
all right,
hopefully
the
later they
unsung
will.
heroes of audio. No.
But like where to put because I don't have like headphones in, and so I'm like, where do I put this Zoom recorder? And I put it in the middle of the room, hopefully, or like the middle of the audience, where it collects or who has like the best laugh. And I knew that my buddies, Mike, Big Biker George has the best laugh, and my buddy Eric Feeling has the best laugh, and Kevin was like far back there, but his laugh carries. So like I put the Zoom recorder right next to them, and you can hear the laughs throughout the whole album. And it was just like recorded at a pool hall in South Daytona called Uncle Waldo's, and it's like the most random place. Like I was trying to get it here, but I was like, but the glass clanks and everything would have.
Yeah.
The
Ambiance.
Yeah.
It's an aggressive ambiance is how I would describe the nog.
But yeah, I pretty much like
Aggressive.
either I'm filling all my sets or I'm recording all my albums. But I'm gonna. This is an exclusive too. I'm releasing another album called the Damn, not like Kendrick Lamar, but it's called Damn. It's an acronym, but it's like Daytona After Midnight Nonsense. And all my sets happened around or at midnight or after midnight here at the Nog, because it's like crazy post Nog after midnight. And I recorded like each one.
Crazy.
Yeah, he always asks to go last, actually.
Shut the fuck up. You're ruining his bit.
Yeah,
I don't
dude.
even know why I asked you.
There's only like 4 people in the audience each time, and so it's fantastic. I bomb whatever, but I'm picking the best tracks that I recorded all week long, like every week until like for 1 year, like during the pandemic even. And I'm just gonna release the best tracks, and it's gonna be pretty gnarly. I'm thinking about 6 tracks because it's gonna be a 30-minute album, or just make it a Wu-Tang Forever masterpiece. But I was thinking about making a masterpiece, but I ended up making a special / documentary called the Mike Nights Tour instead. It's 9 hours long, edited.
9 hours? How much are your dailies? How long?
I don't even know what dailies are. That's one term I did. What is dailies?
Just your raw footage.
Oh, why? It's not much. Like,
There's 9 hours of the
They're
movie
five-
though.
5 minutes at a time. Oh yeah, 9 hours.
yeah, 9 hours. I interviewed comics from Zach's in it. I interviewed comics from Jacksonville to Melbourne to Orlando and everyone in between.
He's basically taking the work that he's done over the years and making it into one large project.
Yeah, it's already it's hidden. It's called the Super Secret Stand-Up Special.
Yeah.
And it's hidden, and only people that have the link have link. It's also a pinned tweet. So if you go to my Twitter and go to it's @Sreth_Na. It's pinned at the top. You can watch each one, and there's a description to everyone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sarethne, SARETHNEY. Sarethne.
I'm a Ken Burns fan, and he makes like 12-hour documentaries. So I love his documentaries. So I'm on board.
Oh, heck yeah.
If anything, make it longer.
Fantastic.
Are we exchanging?
This is a Ken Burns podcast, and I'd like to go to bed now.
Dude, imagine if Ken Burns made a podcast on Daytona.
I put quotes by the 3 kings on my header. So Shane, you can read them if you want. What it says.
What does it say, Shane?
These are real quotes too, by the way. It's not just.
Keep it going.
What do we got going on here?
I mean, I got your whole this bio here. I'm pretty new to Twitter, but
Oh, I got quotes by 3 kings of different fields that are my header.
first generation Cambodian American, award-winning short filmmaker, comedian, DJ, fashion designer,
I know there's got to be some Clive Barker and Corey Taylor in there.
journalist, philanthropist, storyteller, superhero.
Oh, I'll go to my Twitter and.
Well, he is a superhero.
Yeah, I think that's his
Manchu.
Instagram, ain't it? Is that your Instagram? Oh, is it?
Wu Manchu.
It's Sareth is a gentleman and much loved in my household. I hold him to the highest regard. Clive Barker, a master of horror. This is my boy Sareth, local comic. Go support him. Check him out. Funny. Joe Coy, stand-up comedian. You ain't nothing to fuck with. Dude, Corey Taylor.
Nice.
Fuck yeah, dude.
I like how you put Stone Sour there. Like Slipknot wasn't enough.
Actually,
In case you didn't fucking
It
know.
was also in Stone Sour.
I'm a little ashamed to admit the only time I ever saw Corey Taylor live was a Stone Sour concert.
What?
That was
He
I've
ain't the
never seen
biggest
Slipknot.
fan. He ain't the biggest fan of Slipknot. I'm gonna call
I
him
mean,
out.
that Stone Sour show was good.
Corey
But,
Taylor's the shit, though. I actually really like. I love the drama that he drums up in the rock community as well. It's good.
Oh, dude. He fucking shits on Nickelback.
He doesn't mean to
Trapped.
bother, but
I like that, but yeah, I covered Papa Roach's show with
God, I
Stone
just
Sour
got
at Club Nokia.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I asked him about it when he was at Spooky Empire about this show, and before I asked him what his favorite Wu-Tang songs were. But he's a pretty cool dude. That's what I'm trying to help him out with his foundation, trying to raise money for like for first responders and the military or folks with PTSD and stuff. So
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's cool.
Corey Taylor's a shit, man.
yeah, he's a very nice guy. Yeah,
He can't be.
I know that his new mask, his most recent mask, is actually my favorite.
It is the best man.
It's the best mask.
Is that the Nightbreed inspired one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one that's
The
on the back.
Dr. Decker inspired mask.
Yeah.
Which
Did
was
Tom
already
Savini
the
make that
scariest
one
mask.
too? I know he made the last one. Tom Savini made his last mask. I don't know if he made this one, but
So, Reth, I imagine you know with the combination of your interests, like with Corey Taylor and Nightbreed, like, do you know anything about that most recent mask that was based on Dr. Decker's character?
I didn't. I forgot to ask him about that because I was like so confused. Like, what are you like? Because like there's like the no button eyes or no zipper mouth. So I was,
Right.
I was like, where are you going with this? Because there's
It was different.
yeah.
it's
So,
definitely the same color scheme.
So
And he had to open his mouth, obviously. So.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, like Corey Taylor's a great guy, but how do you deal with like knowing these celebrities and their perception in the media? Because Corey Taylor, like, he seems like a great guy, but like he has some sort of like when it comes to his reputation with other artists, like a lot of people seem to like not like how he talks about some.
well, like if like it's probably like it's a reaction. Like I mean MDK started the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so how else would you retaliate? I mean. He got his good licks in. I mean, I've seen MDK in concert too. When I went to his show, I was like, he's gonna be big, and it was like at the Key Club. He was like, one show was at the Key Club, and he was performing, and he had like a raft that he was on, and like drama from like Rob Dyrdek's show was there, and he had this big old bottle of Grey Goose, and like handed to MDK. And then I also covered the MDK Tech 9 show when they were doing the Hostile Takeover tour, and like. I forgot to turn off my flash on my phone because I was trying to get a picture of Tech 9.
Uh-huh.
And then he was like, oh, and then he comes up to me and gives me a fist bump and walks away. And it was like before he started his show. And then I go up to the balcony because I had like the credentials to go all over the place. And his manager, or probably his business partner, was like, hey, you can't film this. He goes, but he's not, it's like me, like not really a drunk, like I was a hip hop. I'm always Wu-Tanged out. He goes, yeah. He was like, film away. And I recorded I'm a Player from them, and they were dancing on the stage and everything. It was pretty gnarly. It was like when Chris Calico was with them and everything. It was just the craziest night. But yeah, look, like he had the right to do it with Corey and MDK. And like, I mean, if I was at his level and someone said those mean things to me, I'm gonna say something back. But
yeah, man, I get that.
But since my buddies are like, they usually do all the fighting for me, I'm just like, all right, buddy, go ahead, sick them. Like, I don't know, because I'm a lover, not a fighter. I'm a writer, not a fighter, and so my friends understand that. So it's dope, and that's why I hung out with the Misfits. I'm like, you guys could do all your crazy things all you want. So I'll just hold down the fort.
I'm gonna be right here writing it down.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna get involved.
Yeah, it's not my business.
Indeed. I'll be the ref. I'll be the manager. I'll be the Jimmy Hart. You guys just go ahead and do all the crazy things.
Nice, man. That's awesome. It seemed you met a lot of celebrities. You have a lot of stories, probably well more than we can fit into one episode, obviously. But the Clive Barker thing was just, that's awesome. I like when we saw him, God, he looked sick. Like he was like, I know, and we wish all the best. I hope he gets healthy. But it's just, it's glad that you got him in probably a good state of mind too, where you could, have heart to hearts with him. And what would you think would be the thing you learned the most from it? Like, did you learn like how to write, or like what did he kind of expand your writing mind? Like, what would you?
I'd say all of the above. He turned me into a writer because English is my second language, and so my grammar sucks. But he didn't judge me at all with my writing skills. He goes, "Just write your heart out, kid." And I'm like, "All right." So I wrote my heart out, and he taught me to he knows that I love hip hop, and I brought the Riz up to the studio and stuff. And he goes, "You just can't cover hip hop, right? While you're out here." I'm like, "All right," because he goes, "Because I don't want you to get pigeonholed like I did. Like everyone knows that I write horror, but no one knows that I write The Thief of Always or Script Sacrament or Weave World or all these other books. But write about every single genre, experience every single genre, and that's why I go to Lamb of God and Deftones and Wu-Tang and Cypress Hill and Real Big Fish, all out there, Soundgarden, Everclear. I just covered all these shows, even the local ones." And he goes, "Just do that, and you'll be fine." And it's true. And he taught me to be humble and be down to earth, and that's why I'm not out there now. My dad was like, "One of these days, you're gonna have one of these houses out in Beverly Hills." I'm like, "No, I'm not." I've seen the people around Clive, and I didn't want that, but I just want to be the Clive. I don't want an entourage. I just want to be by myself, be a lone wolf. Just, I do have a clique that's cool here, but most of the time I'm on the road by myself, and that's totally fine too.
Okay, can I ask you, would you rather a death metal ska band or a hip hop country band?
Oh, I would definitely go with the death metal.
Yeah.
That one, because of you and meanness. That's the only reason.
Just a little upstroke and drop C.
And all my bands that play my festival in Colorado and not here are mostly metal bands. We sprinkle in folk and reggae and R&B and hip hop and stuff. But it's mostly metal, and it's to see them work together is so dope. Yeah, and it's just we have a banjo bluegrass this year. I've been trying to tap into every single genre, but mostly it's metal. And I don't look anything like them, so that's why I have a battle vest on with different genres of music. And I showed it to Corey. He goes, "That's a very eclectic mix." When I went to Day of the Dead, a different one, because he tried to go to that one with Clive, but he caught COVID, so that's why he wasn't there with him. Or was it the one with Tony Todd? It was one of them. But yeah, I went to a couple.
Yeah, the one in Atlanta where I first met him, it was 2019, maybe? I don't know, but it was before COVID,
Oh, it's okay.
But it was awesome.
Yep, he was the only reason why I went up there too, and so
Yeah.
I had to go see him.
It's really cool up there, at least. Well, actually, the same thing as Peak Empire. He had his own room. He had his own sectioned off portion, and on all four walls was his artwork. And it was just amazing to be I'm just standing in a room where no matter what direction I look in, I see the artwork of the person I aspire to be in many ways. It was really cool.
He's my very first convention experience with the guy wasn't Day of the Dead or Speak Empire, but my summer internship with him, he takes me to Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, and I was just this is nuts. The Book of Blood premiere was happening, not the one that's on Hulu, but the film. And he takes me to Comic-Con with him, and the first night or something like that, I stayed the first couple nights I stayed at a Roach Motel. And then he goes, "Hey, Srath, I'm not staying here for the last night. I'm actually going up the next, I have one more night left. Here, have my suite." This is so cool. And, yeah. So
yeah, right.
during that time, I was his handler pretty much, and just seeing people form a line from Sweden and all around the world. And his line is so long that they had to cut it off and separate it and put it in a different room. There were so many people there just to see him, and he just signed everything for everyone and had a heart-to-heart conversation with people there. And I'm I get to experience this almost 5 days a week, or in the summer internship, and then down to 2 days because they had to get a job, but a couple of jobs actually. So
when I first met him, I drove all those hours, like I said, over 6 hours, and I was the first person in line. And he had his own room, like I said, and he was taking his time coming down, whatever. So all of a sudden I'm at the front of the line, and I'm like, fuck. Maybe it sucks to be at the front of the line, like he's just becoming accustomed to his surroundings and like how his day is going to go for a couple hours or whatever. So I just kind of like slowly tried to enjoy the books of his artwork on the table and whatever. I was like, I want to make this last, and that's when I asked him about the book of Abarat when he was going to bring out the fourth one. He was like, it'll be within the next year. And that was, I want to say it was 2019, and it still hasn't come out yet. So very, very curious on that, but at least I know that it's finished. I know that it's, up there with the greatest fantasy novels ever written. It's going to be, that series. It's going to be like regarded in that fashion in the future. So I just want to the last couple times we saw him, he didn't seem like he was doing that well health-wise. And I'm just like, man, is he going to get this story out before he gives up writing or croaks or, not to be harsh about it or whatever, but
the honest truth.
He doesn't seem like he's been in the best of health. And I'm really just curious on how that story is going to go. It's been over a decade since I read the last book for the first time,
I hope we see him again. You're a goddamn liar.
Yeah.
You're a liar.
I hope it all goes well for him and stuff like that. And like I forgot when I did my one-man shot Fringe like last year, it was like the 30th anniversary edition or something, or an annual Fringe. Like I combined, like my first act was how I got to Clive, like as his apprentice. The second act was all my concert stories, and the third act was me doing stand-up at Fringe, and how everything connected. And there's like different varieties of that one-man show, because I know that my stand-up's not for everyone, and so
it's really clean.
It's really clean, but super dirty.
It's for children and curse.
But I curse one time with cum.
No curse words, but you have to take a shower after you hear it.
Absolutely. And if you hug me, your clothes will get pregnant. But that's what Andre Dolan says.
I seen it. I don't know it.
So I did an alternate ending. Like one of the alternate endings was how I got into stand up, what inspired it, and Clive was the one that told me to get into stand up. So I would always come back to the studio and tell him like these wild adventures that I had, and he goes, "You should try stand up." And so I did it at the Jump Cut Cafe in Studio City, and I was dressed up as my superhero alter ego Wu Manchu, because we talked about that in the previous episode. And then I did my Wu Manchu set and some of my stand up is from I kept some of the original jokes but made them better over time. And then the host was like, "Hey, I changed from my Wu-Tang gear to my Rage Against Machine shirt. I saw him at the Memorial Stadium or whatever, where the USC Trojans play." And then I changed into that shirt, went back in. The host goes, "I need you to do 5 more minutes." I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about, dude." He goes, "So you're pulling an Andy Kaufman on me." And we were talking about moons earlier. So like Man on the Moon, Andy Kaufman, Clifton, kind of like alter ego thing. And it was just fun. And that's like where my love of stand-up came in. And I didn't know how to get booked onto shows or didn't know how to ask people when I got back to Colorado. I started doing mics, and my festival comes first in October. Then 4 months later was my first show ever, which was my roast. Then I moved out here, and thanks to Zach and like the nOg being my home for like the past 7 years, and like networking with comics, I got on so many shows. Like I try to do like 1 show a month so I don't kill myself or like anything like that.
It's nice therapy. It's really nice.
Yeah, I did go on tour once.
Therapy.
I did like 10 dates back to back from here to Atlanta and back down again, like little cities in between.
I think it's funny that Clive Barker, not to keep going back to him, but like he recommended stand-up to you, because stand-up, when I think of writers, when anybody thinks of writers, you think of a recluse, somebody that's a misanthrope, hates the human race, doesn't want to be exposed, wants to live in we'll use Stephen King as an example, a town in Maine where you're snowed in and you don't have to deal with human beings,
Speaking of misanthropes, I just watched JT Haversack's documentary. That's the name of it. And Zach got picked up for an altercation festival in Austin, Texas. I had to plug that in there. So,
But yeah, what I was gonna say was like at the same time, as a writer in this day and age, I always say that stand-up comics like kind of have the most direct route to actual free speech. Not always.
It's very,
Not always.
Yeah,
Don't
incorrect.
ask that
It
to
depends
Will
on what your
Smith.
crowd is. It
They're
depends
getting-
on.
If you're in the
comics are
north-
getting slapped nowadays, so I don't know.
No,
Something's
no, no,
changed.
no.
He's,
Okay.
he has a serious thought.
Hold on.
He has a serious
Let's go
thought.
back 2 years.
Let's just let me just say this. That's a total horseshit thing. People can fight in comics for a long time, and musicians. Anybody who goes to live events, shit happens all the time. It just happened with two famous people, so everybody's like, oh.
All right, we'll come up with a better example of
Sorry,
somebody
go
who has better access to free speech.
I don't
Who has
know.
better? Yeah.
More direct access to like actual
Yeah.
free speech.
Yeah, free speech is still happening, just like it always has. There's just consequences to your free speech. That's the only thing that's happening. The government is not infringing it unless you're like actually
this
like.
Is why I put him on.
The government is not, and at the NOG you have
All of a sudden,
you have unlimited free speech at the NOG, so you can say whatever you want here. It's never been an issue.
I eat children.
Me too.
People talk like comedians
She ain't
getting
wrong.
slapped today. Like it's always been fucked up. Like people talk about how like the '80s was such a bastion of free speech, but like when George Carlin did his 7 dirty words you can't say on TV, that motherfucker went on stage and was arrested for public indecency for performing a set. So this has been going on forever. I think just being a comedian in my day-to-day life, I can say wild and crazy shit, and people will be like, "Oh, he's a comedian. He's gonna say those things." So you do get a little bit of a pass as a comic, but there's a line. I mean, I don't know. There's this whole gray area of what you can and cannot say.
Yeah, if you want to talk about free speech here, my ex-girlfriend.
I don't know where we going.
Well, just real quick.
He had a thought, and you're ruining it.
Okay, this table right here, this is my table. My ex-girlfriend, some guy was on stage, he got drunk and wanted to try stand up, and he didn't his first joke bomb, so he just started roasting everybody in the audience. And my girlfriend at the time flipped this fucking table over. She's like 4 foot tall. She fucking flipped this table. She fucking flipped this table over and was like, "I'll fucking kill you!" And there's like comedians like
the roast,
yeah, and there's like
crazy.
and there's like people holding her back. So there's free speech. Just a short woman who's a little drunk might fucking kick you in the head. Sorry, you had a thing.
Yeah, go fuck yourself.
Well, maybe at the
Hey,
time.
Zach, do I have to slap the shit out of you to shut the fuck up? I don't know.
Well, then let's say at the time when Clive Barker suggested to Surratt that he get into comedy, my favorite writer, living
Kevin,
writer, suggested to Surratt that he get into comedy. Maybe at the time he thought it was a good avenue to get your thoughts out to the public unhindered.
Yes.
Let me simplify it to that.
Can we? I'm talking to you like a 5-year-old now. Can you fucking?
Wow. Don't do your stepdad shit. To me.
I love being a stand-up comic. So you're your own writer, director,
Like
producer,
softball,
actor, editor on stage, and I don't write any of my jokes down. I just write on stage and just flush it out. Like you know,
Yeah, man, that takes a lot of guts, man. You know, like especially say if something doesn't go well, like next one. You know, it kind of just brushing it off. Because a lot of people, you know, I've been to plenty of shows where they bomb and they don't take it well. And the fact that you can, so I'm not saying that's every time.
No, but it's funny to think about.
You're not wrong though.
Writer
Okay.
performers usually that's separate.
Yeah.
And like I just think it's cool. I like the idea of writer performer becoming one and the same. And it takes a certain kind of person, you know.
Yeah.
And like you don't come across that person often. They're usually one or the other.
Surratt takes a bomb like a fucking champ. I've seen Surratt bomb to a room full of people where they're viscerally upset. He's like, "Do you know what felching is?" And they're like, "We don't. And please don't tell us." He's like, "I'm going to tell you." and he explains it. They're like, "Jesus Christ!" And he just keeps going. And it's a really magical sight to see, honestly. Just to watch people just be horrified by him. They're like, "Is he 12 or is he 40? What's happening?"
I bomb atomically like Inspector Deck from Triumph. But we are out of time. Yeah, and I enjoy it. So my voice bombing story happened here.
Plug it up, baby.
Plug
Surratt Fest.
Oh yeah, Surratt Fest happening July 15th.
That's all we have for today, folks.
It's happening July 15th to the 19th. because it honors Hunter S. Thompson's birthday. And
That's the Pueblo.
yep, the Pueblo one. And then we have the Daytona one, is October 5th through the 9th, which honors Clive's birthday. So that's why I did it for those days.
Oh,
So yeah.
Awesome, man.
Sweet. That's awesome.
You got any announcements?
Well, are you just plugging stuff right now?
Yeah.
Brad Cadavers. So we got the Average Joe Movie Show podcast. We've been a part of this whole time. Ragged Cadavers. I designed the pins. Big horror buff. We all are. There's various things available. There are lapel pins, 2-inch horror themed lapel pins. Look it up. Instagram, ragged_cadavers. Check them out if you're into horror movies at all.
Yeah.
Buy some here too.
Yeah, buy some here. What, you gonna plug something?
Yep, gonna do some dates real quick. Here we go. Hosting at the NOG Wednesday, so come back Wednesday. You can watch comedy. Copper Rocket hosting there Thursday, Saturday at Downtown Daytona Live hosting there. Fort Lauderdale on the 26th. DeBerry on the 27th. That should be weird.
Sure. Damn.
St. Pete on the 28th, Jacksonville
back
on
up?
the 29th, and then I'll be in LA for 3 weeks. So follow me on stuff so you can find out where if you're in LA and you're watching because you're friends with Sarat. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was great. If you want to catch the Average Joe Movie Show, we do weekly podcasts every Sunday. We used to do live showings, but I don't know why we don't do it. Oh,
Logistics.
Logistics. You know, we'll come back to it at some point. But we're going to be talking next week. We're going to be talking Top Gun. We're going to preview the new Top Gun Maverick
And Men.
Men, and we're also going to be reviewing the movie Men by Alex Garland. Can't wait. And thank you, Sareth, for having us on here.
You're welcome.
And hopefully this won't be the last time we get together on a podcast, and we'll get you back on the Average Joe Movie Show soon. Okay?
I would love that. You guys can take off if you like. You're tired. But I'll plug in my future dates to.
Oh, yeah.
See y'all later.
May 19th, I'll be at Celery City Craft Beer Garden in Stanford. May 20th, I'll be at Fat Fish Blue in Orlando, next to the Orlando Improv. Same night, May 20th, Lone is Shakespeare Center. I'll be world premiering my short film, Strathnae Presents. It's a big old quote on the back of that painting that we talked about earlier. May 21st, the Abbey in DeLand, Florida. And I won't plug my June dates because
We will be talking about the Sareth short film as well.
oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's right. What was the name of the new one?
I just called it Strathnae Presents, kind of like I just put it as a file, but it's just a really long name. I took the inscription from Clive's inscription as a name for the movie, so it's a really long title. But I put Strathnae Presents because of Alfred Hitchcock Presents as a file that they can download. So
That's awesome.
yeah, he's also in the Laserdisc of Psycho. Clive is so
Oh, is
that
he?
box set. Yeah, I know
That's
Laserdisc.
that's super interesting. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, well, all right. So, Sareth, thank you very much for having us. We had a great time, and we'll be seeing you again, man.
Awesome.
Hopefully, it's spooky too. Maybe.
I hope so. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Red.
You're
Hey.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Had a good time.
Boop, 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 boop.
Thank
Drew,
you,
say
Shane.
goodbye.
Thank you, Matt, Zach, everyone
See
in
you guys.
attendance. Tip your bartender, James. Give it
Yeah,
up for the
that's right.
nod. We'll see you all next
Take
month.
care of James. Take care of the dog. They take care of us.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Hey.
Thank you, Sareth. Thanks for having us, man.
You're welcome. Anytime. Anytime.
This one? This exact one?
Yes.